Yo, what's good, y'all? It's Simi and I'm on it, and today we gotta talk about this wild new big beautiful bill that Trump just signed. I ain't even gonna lie, this bill has the internet in a full chokehold right now. It's messy, it's bold, and it's stirring up all kinds of drama.
Trump's so-called big beautiful bill has now become law. Let's objectively talk about what's in it.
It's a monster bill over 900 pages and incredibly controversial, with some Democrats straight up calling it evil, and many conservatives also saying it's terrible.
But supporters say that it's a huge victory, delivering on several of Trump's core campaign promises.
So here are the top 5 most controversial things we see people talking about. First, that millions of people will lose their Medicaid healthcare. It's true that there are significant changes to Medicaid in this bill. The biggest change comes from the new work requirement, which would require Medicaid recipients aged 19 to 64 to regularly file paperwork showing that they're working, volunteering, or attending school at least 80 hours per month, unless they qualify for an exemption like caring for a young child or having a disability.
As a side note, there's now also a similar work requirement to receive federal food assistance. Medicaid recipients will now also face some new out-of-pocket costs, and states will receive less federal funding for Medicaid. Taken together, the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates that around 8 million people could lose their coverage, mostly due to paperwork or non-compliance. Second, the bill will give ICE a bigger budget than the militaries of most countries. This is generally true. Here's a breakdown of funds allocated to ICE and other border efforts over the next few years.
Overall, estimates place this new budget for immigration control around the size of Canada's entire military budget. Third, the bill will defund Planned Parenthood clinics. So the bill blocks patients from using Medicaid to pay for health care at any clinic that provides abortion, even if the health care they're receiving doesn't involve abortion. This is important because millions of patients visit Planned Parenthood for things like STI treatment, prenatal care, and cancer screening.
But under the bill, because Planned Parenthood provides abortions, Medicaid can't be used to pay for any service there. You can still use private insurance or pay cash, but without payments from Medicaid, an estimated 1 in 3 Planned Parenthood clinics could close.
Fourth, the bill includes new tax cuts that mostly benefit the wealthy. So the most impactful tax provision in this bill actually doesn't do anything new at all. Rather, it extends the former tax cuts that are already existing law, which many argue were tilted towards high-income earners.
The bill also includes some new tax breaks, including no federal tax on tips and overtime. Fifth, federal student loans are going to get wrecked. So the bill adds new caps to the amount of federal loans you can take out for graduate and professional school loans, meaning if students need to borrow more than these caps, they'll have to turn to private loans.
Also, Pell Grants must only go to full-time students now, and Biden's income-driven repayment plan has been replaced with a new, more stringent plan.
So overall, this was a very broad overview.
So before you go on and leave a comment about a nuance that we missed, this bill was longer than the Game of Thrones.
As a young college student, this bill pissed me off. Y'all love calling the young generation lazy, but now we have this bill that basically says if you're young, broke, and trying to do better, tough luck.
Regardless of who you voted for or where you fall on the political spectrum, I need you to hear what I have to say and receive it with an open heart and open mind, because it's not going to only affect you, but it's going to affect millions of your fellow Americans. This is why the big beautiful bill is going to hurt the working, middle, and lower class. As far as housing, they're going to cut rental assistance, Section 8, and homelessness prevention. If you're a low-income family, a veteran, or a single parent, good luck with finding safe and stable housing. These cuts to housing include HUD programs, Section 8 vouchers, and emergency rental assistance. This impacts families already struggling with rent hikes, and they will face longer wait lists or lose their support. Homelessness is likely to rise, especially for single parents, veterans, and low-income seniors. Landlords in low-income areas may evict faster, knowing subsidies won't come through, and this hurts the working-class families, disabled individuals, unhoused people, immigrants, and unsubsidized housing. Up next, how will it affect food stamps and WIC? They're gone for millions. So if you're working full-time and still rely on SNAP to feed your kids, too bad, babes. You're out. Reductions in SNAP, food stamps, WIC, all those programs, they're being cut. Eligibility thresholds are tightening and benefits are shrinking. This affects millions who may get kicked off of food assistance or receive less, even if they're working full-time. Families with kids will see grocery budgets stretched a little thinner, and WIC cuts means fewer resources for pregnant women, babies, and toddlers. This not only hurts single parents, but immigrant families, gig workers, students with kids, and the elderly. As far as healthcare, Medicaid is getting gutted. That means more uninsured workers, higher medical debt, and fewer mental health resources. If you beat cancer like I did, or live with a chronic illness, they just made staying alive more expensive. This bill causes healthcare program rollbacks. What's being cut is Medicaid expansion and subsidies from the ACA. This impacts low-wage workers who rely on Medicaid, who will then become uninsured or forced into private plans that they cannot afford. Preventative care, mental health services, and prescriptions will become inaccessible. This mainly hurts immigrants, low-income workers, cancer survivors, or people with chronic illnesses. As far as education, they're attacking Pell Grants and student loan relief. First-generation students, immigrants, and parents who are trying to go back to school, the path for a better future for yourself or your family just got that much harder. In relation to the education access, this is what is going to be cut or restricted. Federal Pell Grants, student loan forgiveness programs, funding for public colleges, and adult education. This makes it to where education becomes even harder to access without debt, and immigrants and first-generation students lose their shot at an upward mobility. Adult learners, like parents going back to school, are now going to face more barriers. This hurts the working class students, DACA recipients, parents returning to school, and people trying to skill up to escape poverty. I know this is one of the biggest ones, but the tax cut for the wealthy and corporate welfare, sweet merciful Jesus. While they're slashing aid, this is what they're doing. Expanding tax loopholes for billionaires, lowering corporate tax rates, deregulating industries that exploit labor. Need I go on? In layman's terms, and in order to translate for the people in the back who are just not getting it, tax cuts for billionaires are untouched. Corporate loopholes are still wide open. They're not cutting waste. They're cutting people like us. They're balancing the budget on the backs of the poor while rewarding the already rich. This is why it matters. This bill isn't about cutting waste. It's about cutting people out of basic dignity. It undermines economic mobility, education access, food security, healthcare equity, human rights for immigrants, and working families. It is a direct blow to the working, middle, and lower class. But here's the thing. This isn't the end. It's a wake-up call. Talk about it. Share this. Show up where it counts. Because we deserve more than survival. We deserve a system that serves us, not one that buries us while smiling. If you stayed to the end of the video, please interact with it in any way. Repost, comment, like, share, because this needs to get out to people like us. A lot of people are not aware of what's happening behind the scenes because they're too distracted. And on top of this, many Americans who voted for the talking orange believe that rules for thee and not for me is how things are going to play out. And it's just not. There are many Americans who are waking up to find out that their lives are going to be impacted by this. Many of them are effing around and finding out the hard way, as they should. But unfortunately, millions of other Americans are going to be impacted by the choices that they have made.
How the Big Beautiful Bill could impact your income. For context, as of July 4th, the Big Beautiful Bill has been officially signed into law. That said, I think it's important for you as an American to understand how it will actually impact your income. This income projection data comes from the Penn Wharton budget model, which was updated on July 1st. They projected out the average change in after-tax or transfer income for income year 2027 for Americans. Transfer income would be benefit from things like social programs, which is why we see a negative effect on those in lower income quintiles. They split this data by income quintile, which is just a fancy way to say by 20% brackets. I'll be sharing the associated salaries for each of those brackets for more relevant comparison. This is an update on the video that I previously published based on data that I had on 5/27. Before we dive into the actual data, make sure to hit that follow button. But starting off, those making $0 to $18,000 a year, they will see negative $165 a year or minus 1.1% benefit. For those making $18,000 to $53,000 a year, they'll see a $30 benefit or 0.1%. For those making $53,000 to $96,000 a year, they'll see a $1,430 benefit or plus 1.8%. For those making $96,000 to $179,000 a year, they'll see a net benefit of $3,955 or plus 2.9%. For those in the last income quintile, it's split into more granular sections. But to start off, 179 to 272,000 a year, they'll see a benefit of $6,690 or plus 3.1%. If we go all the way to the top, those making the salaries in the 0.1%, so that would be income above $4,451,000 a year, they would see a benefit of $301,500.
Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. This situation affects us all.